You're not saying you think Republicans are gonna stop it?
I don't think Donald Trump wants another election. You think for a second I have 24 Trump 2028 hats. His folks keep sending me.
Gavin Newsom 2028 presidential campaign. He's grandstanding and making a clown of himself because he wants national attention. He tried the moderate thing for a month and realized it wasn't raising him any funds.
Moments like this are rare in politics, yet here we are. California's self-styled political prince, Gavin Newsom, suddenly found himself thrust into the spotlight and roasted without mercy. And this wasn't some light jab. Television analyst Lindi Li lit him up with full political fire. On live TV, she tore into his biggest bluffs, dismantling them piece by piece. It felt less like a debate and more like watching a Shakespearean drama unfold, complete with hubris and downfall. Just picture it. Lee, right there on stage, calling out Newsom's missteps for all to see. And wow.
But not only did Gavin Newsom lie, he was the biggest liar. He was the one, and I was there. He was the one in the spin room lying to the entire world on the night of the debate, saying it was just a cold, nothing to see here, move along. But he is such a
There was a certain sadness in her tone. She pointed to the swelling homeless population, the crushing taxes, and the unmistakable sense that California was sliding further into decline.
A Trump crusader, because he realizes that it helps him with his coffers and his fundraising. So that's why he's on a tear, and he's a complete hypocrite. And I just saw that California now leads the nation in homelessness and unemployment. Maybe he should focus on that.
This is a guy who retweeted himself on Mount Rushmore. This is a guy who retweeted himself, dare I say, as Pope.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's hawking a Trump Bible. This is a guy who's out there selling perfume and with one of the great grifts, a coin.
But I want to get to the Trump is not hot. So
this is a guy who has...
With so many shots fired at him, it's hard to imagine where Newsom could possibly hide. On live television, his carefully polished image crumbled. And the truth is, audiences can't look away from moments like this. They're addicted to dramatic unmaskings. It's like watching a magician slip up and reveal the trick behind the illusion. You almost wonder if Newsom's team is scrambling for a dimmer switch or already plotting a comeback. That's why these takedowns hit so hard. They put into words what so many people have been whispering all along. And trust me, there are more moments like this ahead. So stick around. Hit that subscribe button, because delivering this kind of political theater straight to your screen is what keeps this channel alive. Now, let's talk about what happened next. Gavin Newsom's talent for projecting a polished political...
If you're not going to be a good person, can you please not be a pathological liar at the very least? He's unable to do that. They're conjoined. I want to say, so he is out there doing a 180 on trans, but he's been on the forefront of trans advocacy all these years. Are you treating us like, why are you treating us like idiots? Or that we were born yesterday? We remember distinctly, he was one of the most ardent trans warriors. Not only that, he has a gumption to rewrite history and say that he knew all along that Biden's brain
image is undeniable. But here's the twist. Lindi Li didn't come at him with soft jabs or polite critiques. Not at all. She went for the jugular because sugarcoating simply isn't her style.
Gavin Newsom was on the front lines of defending Biden. He wasn't just a defender and champion of Biden. He was the strongest. He debated DeSantis on the national stage. He went out of his way to, frankly, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, he lied to the American people about the fitness of the president. He went out there again and again and said he was fine. Meanwhile, people like me were...
It was as if Lee had arrived with a ledger, an itemized list of every blunder, scandal, and failure under Newsom's watch. And she wasn't about to let any of it slide. One by one, in front of the cameras, she ticked off the boxes without hesitation. It was part spectacle, part reckoning. Honestly, it felt like watching someone peel off their armor in public, unashamed, convinced that bearing it all was the only way to make a point. Lee's opening salvo, the numbers, always the numbers. She cut through the glossy PR spin and dropped raw statistics onto the table like dead weight. No glamour, no polish, just the hard, unflattering math of modern California. And with that, she turned the spotlight toward the issue that has become a defining scar on Newsom's tenure, the homelessness crisis.
Orders aren't suggestions, and laws aren't optional. If you cannot handle your own state, the President of the United States has every right to come in And right now, Gavin Newsom is treating public safety, he's treating our lives and our treasure as his plaything for his presidential campaign. His priority isn't the safety and the well-being of the American people. It's his own political preservation. He's positioning himself, trying to have it both ways, trying to pretend that he's all for illegal aliens, and then also that he's moderate. You cannot have it both ways.
These figures don't just sting, they provoke a fundamental question. What exactly is all that government spending accomplishing? If it weren't so devastating, the mismatch between dollars spent and outcomes achieved would almost be comedic. Ordinary Californians are the ones weaving around tent encampments just to get to work, watching sidewalks morph into makeshift campsites for a state that prides itself on being the land of opportunity. The irony is brutal. And then came taxes. Few words send a deeper shiver down the spine, yet Li refused to tiptoe around it. Her argument was straightforward. Californians are being taxed into suffocation while the ultra-wealthy glide by untouched. It felt like a cruel joke. Residents should be enjoying paradise on the Pacific, not calculating escape routes to states where the sun shines just as bright, but the tax man takes a lighter cut. Li went further, dismantling Newsom's carefully curated reputation as a savvy economic steward. She invoked imagery with bite. Look at those companies leaving faster than a Tesla hitting 60. And she wasn't wrong. The state's business climate is bleeding jobs and innovation. No one imagines the American dream is synonymous with crushing taxes and forced relocation.
It drives you crazy that people still speculate that you're waiting in the wings to run for president. I know it's not going to happen. You know it's not going to happen. But what do you think is fueling that speculation?
I don't know. I don't think much anymore, and I'm so proud of the president and the incredible job he did. Didn't surprise me at all, and I know it didn't surprise you. I really believe that. I said to my friend the other day, I said, you know, on this age, and we can get into debates around fitness, look, I'd rather have 80 years behind me than those 88 federal criminal counts in front of me. And so I feel very good about Joe.
Her rhetorical strength wasn't in cheap shots, but in the way she fused irony, humor, and precision. It was political critique delivered with the cadence of stand-up, but without the awkward pauses. When she quipped, "Gavin's got the charisma of a polished actor, but none of the substance," it landed because it tapped into what many already feel. He's auditioning for applause rather than governing with conviction. That timing was everything. For once, Californians who often feel overlooked felt seen. Li didn't just critique Newsom, she voiced the frustration simmering across the state. Li wasn't there to hand out pleasantries or soften her blows. She was there to remind everyone that the emperor's wardrobe, in this case, Newsom's slick suits and rehearsed charm, doesn't disguise the fact that his style is out of sync with the times. The question then is how someone like Newsom reacts to such public undressing. He can't simply shrug it off or brush away the criticism like lint from a tailored lapel. When your political brand is tethered to a state many see as unraveling, humiliation cuts deeper. That's the paradox Newsom finds himself trapped in. He sells California as a kind of Tomorrowland, a futuristic showcase of progress, but the reality resembles more of a half-abandoned fairground. It's like throwing a grand party only to realize no one showed up except critics with cameras. And Li played that role perfectly. Her pivot to the subject of his presidential ambitions was perhaps her sharpest stroke. Unlike Newsom, who has flirted openly with the national stage, Li didn't need to spell it out. She merely alluded to it, leaving viewers to connect the dots themselves, and they did. The image stuck. Newsom as the politician with movie star eyes cast not on Sacramento, but on the Oval Office. He looks less like a leader managing crises and more like an understudy rehearsing for a role he hasn't been invited to play. Call it symbolism or just irony, but Lindi Li's focus on Newsom's perfectly frozen hair was more than cosmetic mockery. In politics, a neat head of hair has long been shorthand for stability, yet in California, it hasn't paved roads, housed the homeless, or kept companies from fleeing. Style without solutions becomes its own indictment. That was the heart of Li's takedown. Newsom sells himself as the redeemer with charisma and cinematic optimism, but when words and deeds collide, the hypocrisy shows. Hollywood-style posturing can't mask dysfunction forever. Her roast wasn't just a performance, it was a demand. Accountability, leadership, clarity. And here lies the pivot point. A roast can humiliate, but it can also force reinvention. Newsom now faces a script he didn't write. Will he improvise with realism or cling to the same glossy narrative? Can he turn that carefully coiffed image into something people actually trust? Or will he remain the politician remembered for a golden nameplate and nothing more? So what do you think? Was Lindi Li fair in tearing him down, or did she just expose what California already knew? Drop your take in the comments. Together, let's run this through the political blender.